Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. So, long time no see, eh? Yeah. I was in a bit of a reading slump, so I migrated towards other hobbies of mine. I did a lot of catching up with last season's TV shows. I played a lot of computer and video games, and yeah, reading fell a bit off the bandwagon, and but now I'm back. Now I've read a few things, so there will be a monthly wrap-up at least, and hopefully a September TBR to accompany this. But as you know me, not reading does not mean not buying, so I have a little book haul for you, about 10-13 books yeah, that I acquired lately. A few of the series I'm following had new issues coming out. There were some interesting debuts that I was interested in, so yeah, let's get to it and talk about all the books I got while I was not reading. First off, we have Last First Snow by Max Gladstone. It's the fourth book in his Craft sequence. The Craft world is very interesting. It's basically, it has a lot of an urban fantasy feel, although the technology in the world is not like modern technology. They have some like very modern concept like law firms, skyscrapers, so that seems very modern. On the technological level, it often seems to be a bit of more beginning of the century. I've read only the first book so far in the series, called Three Parts Dead, and I really enjoyed that one. The books are merely standalones that are connected by being in the same world, and it had a bit of the vibe of City of Stairs, and if you follow my channel for quite some time you will know it was my favorite book of last year, so that means something, and as the first book in the series was a 5-star read for me, I want to continue with the series and bought all the remaining 3 books in the series so far. Next up we have The Iron Ship by K.M. McKinley. It's the first installment in the Gates of the World series. This is basically a fantasy in a secondary world with a lot of steampunk elements, and as far as I know we follow a couple of members of a family called the, let's look at, Crescent family. And yeah, what they are doing in that world, there is the typical conflict, I'd say, of steampunk fantasies with technology versus magic hinted at. I've read some reviews that are hinting on a more like epic fantasy kind of story plot. So that's quite interesting. The ratings are not as high as I would hope it would have, but let's see. I think Samantha from Novels and Nonsense read that book and said it was okay, but not really great. But yeah, I'd like to see for myself. Next up we have a very interesting book. It's called California Bones. It's the first in Greg Van Eekhout's Daniel Blackhand series, and it is set in a parallel Earth or parallel reality. Careful. Here we have magic is in the world. There is a kingdom of Southern California, with Los Angeles being like the capital of it, and here the story takes place. Our hero, Daniel Blackhand, had a father who was a magician, and he died. He was killed in a ritual by the hierarch of the Southern Californian hierarchy, or kingdom. And in this world, I think you can get magical power by digesting bones and stuff like that. And so Daniel is part of a thieving crew, but he wants out of it, but he has to perform like one last task for his boss, and that is to get the sword of his father from the hierarch of the kingdom of Southern California, and then he forms some kind of band of friends and yeah, people who do the job with him. So it seems to be part heist novel, part urban fantasy, part magical realism. The idea with digesting bones to get magical powers seems to be very intriguing and unique. It's part of a trilogy. The second book is already out. The third book comes out later this year. And yeah, that seems a really interesting and unique book to pick up and have a look at. Next up we have Brothers in Valor. It's the third installment in H. Paul Hosinger's Man of War series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or a series. As you can assume by the cover, it's military fantasy, military science fiction, of course. I don't know that much about the series, and mainly that shows you how gullible I am for like cheap book deals. Basically, like every 2 or 3 months on the German Amazon, one book of the series is sold for €1, and the accompanying Audible audiobook is sold for another like €3. So for €4 you get like the ebook and the audiobook, and I bought every single one of the 3 books in this kind of deal. So I have that trilogy of magic military science fiction there for €12, and it's waiting to be read and listened to. Next up we have a book that I showed a lot towards the end of the year when it was announced, and was one of the books I was most looking forward to this year. It's The Dinosaur Lord by Victor Milan. Basically it has that famous blurb now by George R. Martin, who says it's a mix-up of Jurassic Park and Game of Thrones, so that was very intriguing. The cover is really great, and I was really interested to getting to it. As the first reviews came out, most of them were more like it's not that great. It's more like a very typical, stereotypical, cliche-filled epic fantasy, and the dinosaurs are the only like unique element, and they really just shine at the beginning, and then towards more the middle and the end of the book the political intrigue takes over, and the dinosaurs are not more like horses and not that important in the story. So my expectation for the book is a bit lowered, but I'm still very interested to see actually how this plays out, and if that could be a series I can get into and get interested in. Next up we have a book with a very difficult title and series title. It's The Contrary Tale of the Butterfly Girl, the second installment in Ishbel B's The Peculiar Adventures of John Lofthart, Esquire. And yeah, it is a very interesting kind of series. I've just finished the first book in the series, The Singular and Extraordinary Tale of Mirrah and Goliath. I hope I said that right. 2 days ago, and it's more like a dark adult fantasy fairy tale kind of thing. Very imaginative, very beautiful language for people who like Neil Gaiman, who like Catherine M. Valente, more of her like adult work. I think that, yeah, that book would work for you as well. I really enjoyed the first one. It will be included in my monthly wrap-up, and yeah, therefore I got the second book that came out just recently, I think, yeah, August 4th. And I, yeah, really want to see where the series is going, as I think the books can be read in a standalone way and are mostly connected by one of the protagonists, John Lofthart. Yeah, and so I'd like to see where the series is headed. Next up is a book an author and a series I don't have to introduce, I think, a lot. It's Robin Hobb's Fool's Quest, the second installment in her Fitz and the Fool trilogy. It belongs to her wider Realms of the Elderlings series. If you're a frequent watcher of BookTube SFF channels, then you will know about Robin Hobb, about the series, about mostly the first trilogy, the Farseer trilogy, or the second one, the Lifeship Traders. A lot of booktubers are reading Robin Hobb at the moment, me included. Samantha from Novels and Nonsense, Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings, Caitlin from Kitty G, Paul from Common Touch of Fantasy. There are a lot of people reading Robin Hobb at the moment and yeah, presenting her on her on their channel. And I'm a little bit farther behind in the series. I'm just catching up. I need to finish like the third Farseer book. I have read the first one in the Lifeship Traders though, and I already own all of her books. And yeah, want to continue with the series, maybe catch a little bit up to the others and take part in the discussion, and therefore I acquired the newest installment in this long-running series. Next up we have The Price of Valor by Django Wexler. This is a flintlock fantasy. It's the third installment in his Shadow Campaign series. I really enjoyed the first book. It was like a great blend of military fantasy with great characterization of the two main protagonists, Marcus and Winter. I haven't read the second book so far, but I heard it's excellent and I bought the third one. I thought that would be a trilogy, but I actually heard that it will be a 4 or 5 book series, so we have a little bit more to go, and that's always good because yeah, the series seems to be very enjoyable and I can't wait to get to these 2 books. Next up we have The Red Prince by A.J. Smith. It's the third installment in his Long War series. That is a series with a very interesting take on epic fantasy, so it's basically an epic fantasy, but it is always called like epic fantasy meets H.P. Lovecraft, because actually his villains, or the bad people in the series, or people is the wrong word, are like very monstrous, gigantic beings that remind you a lot of like the large demons of Cthulhu. And the series is very fast-paced because it has like a lot of character perspectives, and therefore the perspectives change very often. I've so far read like the first book in the series, and it's very intriguing, but you don't get like the connection you get when reading a Robin Hobb book or a George R. R. Martin book to the characters, due to the swapping of the perspectives that's going on quite often. But nonetheless, this kind of very unique take, the sheer complexity of it, is something that really intrigues me, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to continue with that series. The next book is a book that I technically don't have at the moment, but will get in about 7 hours, because then it will be released and I will get it delivered to my Kindle. It's The House of Shattered Wings by Aliette de Bobard. It's a very interesting take. It's a post-apocalyptic Paris, but the apocalypse, when I get it, is like a biblical apocalypse, so the town is filled with like fallen angels and yeah, different groups and cults, so that seems to be like very interesting. It's a very unique setting. Aliette de Bobard is popular for her like Aztecian inspired fantasy series. There was a trilogy, I forgot the name, unfortunately, something with Underworld. And that is now a new standalone by her, and I haven't read the Aztecian series, but that is very interesting. And as I lived in Paris for about 3 years, the Paris setting is always yeah, kind of intriguing for me, because there are places to remember. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because it seems to be a very interesting take on fantasy, post-apocalyptic fantasy. Yeah, and I'm ready for it. And last but not least, I was approved for Empire Ascendant, the second installment in Cameron Hurley's Worldbreaker saga. It's a highly imaginative series where I've read the first book, The Mirror Empire, last year, rated it 4 stars. It is, as I said, very highly imaginative. It has so many unusual and unique setting and world building things going on. The plot is very complex, very political. The book was, yeah, very much famous or infamous, depends on who you ask, for its violent take on gender roles, because Cameron Hurley in this, in her world, like swaps the gender roles. So the female characters are the physically strong, the more aggressive ones, and the society is very matriarchal for it. But I think you would do yourself a disservice by just like reducing this very complex, very interesting, very unique kind of series just to that issue. It is something that it's worth talking about and worth discussing, but the series has so much more for it going on, and so I'm really intrigued to see yeah, where this is actually headed, and how many new crazy and imaginative things Cameron Hurley is able to pull out of her head. So, these were all the books I've got. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me in a reasonable amount of time, please subscribe to the channel, and I hope you will get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.